That's the whole idea. When I get that one camera, it'll be so nice. So here we go. All right, so our first problem is pretty simple. 2x plus this is just a review of yesterday. Is 9, so what am I doing? Subtract 1. I end up with 2x is equal to 8, divide by 2, and I end up with x is equal to 4. Okay? If you write really small, okay, try and expand things. Try not to do this because you're going to have problems when it comes to keeping everything straight. Believe me. Try and get yourself, so that you can keep things lined up and you can see what's going on. So, because I'm so nice to my teacher, I would write x is equal to 4 over here. All right, number 2, I probably don't even need to do. It's nothing new. You've seen it before. Let's do number 3, okay, together. Number 3. And if you will order what you're working on a separate piece of paper, and you're always going to attach it to the worksheet when you turn it in, sometimes when you take the answer from here to here, you don't write down the right answer. It's happened many, many times in my algebra classes, okay? So please, if I can find your problem, I am going to be looking at them, and I will, if I can find that you just missed bringing over the negative sign or something like that, then I'm still going to give you credit for it, okay? So make sure I can find your problems on your paper, so that it will help you in the end. -5, -5, t plus 1. This is similar to what we did yesterday. Those couple of new things. So I've got -5 is equal to, I have to distribute the multiplication. -5 times 1. Remember, this is a 1 here. Okay. -5 times 1t is what? -5 what? Okay, some of you are leaving variables off. You don't want to do that, okay? You got to get in the habit of making sure your variables are there. And -5 times 1 is -5. So I just distribute that. Remember, we're multiplying times this, and we're taking that and we're multiplying it times this. All right? So now it's just as simple as number 1 was. I'm going to add 5. And like I said yesterday, if it bothers you to have your variable on the right-hand side, I could have just come over here and rewrote this problem in the beginning as -5 times t plus 1 is equal to -5. And it's the same problem, okay? So if it bothers you to have the variable on the right-hand side, just rewrite it. Make sure all your signs are correct. That's the only thing. All right, so now I'm adding 5. Okay, when I add 5 to this side, I end up with -5t is equal to, what do I end up with? 0. So when I divide by -5, t is equal to what? What is 0 divided by any number? 0. Thank you. Okay. And how do I prove that this is really true? Plug it in. So to check my answers, -5, -5 times 1 times 0, right, plus 1. Well, -5 is equal to -5. That would be 0 because -5 times, because 1 times 0 is going to be 0, right? I'm going to do both steps. I'm going to show you both steps. -5. I have to do what's in my parentheses first. 1 times 0 is 0, right? Plus 1. Now I would have 1 inside my parentheses. Okay, now I've got -5 is equal to -5 times 1, which is -5. It is a true statement. Therefore, my answer is correct. Okay? All right? And as we move forward, there are times where I'm going to make you show me the check. Okay? All right, number 4. Scare anybody? Nobody? Everybody's comfortable with it? No problems? Can do it without me showing you how to do it?
Can you show me how to do it?
Oh, okay. Let's talk about what this means. And I'm going to write it up here. M over 4 is the same thing. You can write that as, there's several ways you can write that. You can look at that as 1, because there's a 1 in front of that M, right? Okay, so you could write that as 1m over 4. You could also write that as 1/4 m. All of those are exactly the same thing. Okay, I'm not saying the m is underneath my thing here. I'm just saying the m is out here. It's 1/4 times m. Okay, all right, all those are exactly the same thing. So how do we get rid of a fraction? The easiest way to get rid of that fraction is multiply by its inverse. Okay? So what we're going to do, because if I have 1/4, all right, and I'm just kind of doing some stuff up here, 1/4, and I take 1/4 and I multiply that by 4 over 1. All right? What happens? I get 4 times 1 is what? 4. 1 times 4 is what? 4. And 4 over 4 is what?
1.
So I end up with 1. Do you see how I get rid of my fraction? Pretty simple, right? And once fractions are going to become your friends this year, you're not going to be in fear of them. They're not going to bother you because you're going to know exactly what to do. Multiply by the inverse, and you've got it down. Now, remember that the property of equality says, of equations, that if I multiply one thing by the inverse, I have to multiply what? Every term in the equation by the same thing. So how many terms do I have in this equation? How many? Well, does everybody agree that I have 2 terms? Nobody wants to take another stab? So if I had 2 terms, you're saying this is 1 term? Okay. So I really have 1, 2, 3 terms in this equation. Okay? So now all I have to do is take this and multiply it by 4 over 1. Take whatever this is and multiply it by 4 over 1. And take whatever this is and multiply it by 4 over 1. Okay? Fractions are easy to multiply because you just multiply straight across. Top numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator, correct? So this is going to take now. Have you been taught how to simplify before you multiply? And I'll show you an example. Let's do this. Back of the page. 4 over 1 times 1 over 4. Okay, 1m. I'll do it this way. All right? Okay, essentially, 4 goes into itself how many times?
4.
No. Once. 4 goes into itself how many times? So now 1 times 1 is, 1 times 1 is, which is essentially that. How many of you can see that and are okay with that? Yeah? Okay, so I know that my first term over here, if I do that, simplify before I multiply, I now have 1m, don't I? All right, now let's look at the second term. I'm going to flip over again. Negative 6 times 4 over 1. I'm going to put that over 1 because it just makes it easier to see. All right, negative 6 times 4 is what? Negative 24, and 1 times 1 is, and I'm doing this the long way. You don't have to do it this way, but I'm trying to show you the process, okay? I cannot simplify those. I can only simplify if it's one's on top and one's on the bottom, all right? Because up here, if I hadn't simplified, I would have ended up with 4m over 4, which then I could have divided that. 4 divided by 4 would have given me 1m. Do you see how it works? Okay? All right, so now I know my second term is minus 24 is equal to. Let's see if we can do this one without having to show the step. So 7 times, I'm just going to, this is the numerator, right? It's a whole number. Negative 7 times 4 is what? Negative 28. And 1 times 1 is just going to give me 1, right? So I really don't need to write it, do I? Too much? No problem. We'll do it again, all right? So now it's just simply doing adding 24 here, adding 24 here. This takes care of that. I end up with 1m is equal to negative 28 and positive 24 is what? Negative 4. And there's my answer. Okay? By the way, don't try and write small to save a tree, okay? Write so that you can see it, so that it works the problem out. I have plenty of paper. There will never be a need. I promise you, you'll always have paper, okay? I like you to work one problem as you're going down. You can come up with your own, because a lot of times you're going to do a check, or this leaves this side of the paper to do those kinds of things like that are over here. Until you get really comfortable, it leaves you a place to do some calculations. So I usually get more than 3 problems on a paper, but probably not more than about 4. Okay. There are times where you're only there's so many lines that you're going to have in your equations that you'll get 1. All right. So just kind of get yourself a habit. If you do this and then this, you end up squinching something in over in the corner, and then that's when you make mistakes, all right? So I'm going to turn my paper over, and let's try number 4, okay? So m over 4. Oh, we just did number 4. Oops. Let's try number 5. So this should have been here. M is equal to, this was t is equal to 0, huh? Okay, sorry. M is equal to negative 4. Sorry. We're going to do number 5. All right, number 5. Okay, number 5 is negative 2 plus n over 5 is equal to negative 5. All right? So if I had any issues and had math to do over here, I would be doing it in this section over here. I could have done my work with my fractions, especially till I get used to them. But what is the denominator here? 5. And since this is a 1, it's a really easy thing to do. Soon you won't have a 1 as your numerator, but right now they're going to be 1s. I think I made, nope, number 6 isn't. I'll show you what happens there. Okay? So I'm going to multiply this by the inverse. Instead of 1 over 5, I want to multiply it by 5 over 1. Okay, so 5 over 1, I'm just going to remind myself that that's what I'm multiplying. That means I have to multiply this term by 5 over 1. I have to multiply this term by 5 over 1. Okay, so I've got 5 over 1 times negative 2 over 1, and what am I going to end up with? Negative 10, and I don't need to. So I got negative 10 here, plus, now I've got 5 over 1 times 1 over 5, which is going to give me what? We've already proven that. So I know I'm going to have 1n, but if I didn't know, I could write 1/5 n times 5 over 1 gives me 1n is equal to, now I've got negative 5 over 1 times 5 over 1, which is what? Negative 25 over 1, which is just negative 25. Okay? All right. So now it's just a simple equation that you're used to. Add 10 to both sides. I end up with n is equal to, what have I got? Negative 15. Positive and a negative. Take and subtract the smaller from the larger, then take the sign of the larger number. All right, so number 5 is n is equal to negative 15. All right, let's look at number 6. 4/5 times, we've got all kinds of things going on here. P minus 10 is equal to 8. This kind of puts it all together there. How many P's do I have right now? 1 P. I would suggest you remember to put that there. Okay. My first step is I can't combine anything in my parentheses. Remember PEMDAS. So the next thing is I'm going to distribute my multiplication. Okay. So I'm going to take this and multiply it times this, and this and multiply it times this. What is 4/5 times 1? 4/5. So I'm just going to write 4/5 P. Okay. Now, I'm not sure. So I'm going to come over here and write 4/5 times negative 10 over 1. Okay. Can I simplify before I multiply? Yes. I could do it across and get negative 40, and if that's what you need to do over 5, that's okay. So I'm going to show it both ways. Negative 40 over 5, then I would divide that, and I would end up with negative 8. Okay? I prefer to simplify before I multiply. So if I had done 4/5 times negative 10 over 1 is equal to, I would have taken 5 into itself one time. 5 goes into 10 two times. Now I have 4 times negative 2, which is negative 8 over 1, which is negative 8. Same results, okay, but just a different way to get there. All right, so whichever works for you best. So now I have 4/5 P. I've got to remember to put minus 8 is equal to 8. Okay. Oh, it looks like if I add 8 and add, no, I can't do that because I got this 4/5, don't I? Now remember I said to get rid of that fraction, you're going to multiply by its inverse. Okay? Well, what's the inverse of 4/5? 5 over 4, and I'm going to do 5 over 4, and I'm going to do 5 over 4. And you know anything out, and why I put it in parentheses is because I know that when you take something times a number in parentheses, it means you're multiplying it, okay? Now, 5/4 times 4/5 is going to give me what? Cancel, 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 cancel. I got 1 times 1. I'm going to get 1, aren't I? Okay, I probably would do that over here. I'd say 1. Okay, I know I've got 1P. Okay. Now, some of you, I would suggest that you do this over on the side until you get really good at it. All right. I can look at that and tell you right now it's negative 10. Okay. You guys, I wouldn't expect you to know that. All right. So I've got negative 8 over 1 times 5 over 4. Okay? Please don't try it in your head for now, all right? Negative 8 times 5 is what? Or I could simplify it. What could I do to simplify this? 8 and 4, right? I could, so I'm going to show it both ways for now, all right? Negative 40 over 4, which is equal to, divide that out, I get negative 10. I could have done negative 8 over 1 times 5 over 4, and I would have done 4 into itself one time, 4 into 8 two times, negative 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 times 1 is 1, which is, I'm sorry, negative 10. Okay? All right? Yeah, we're kind of in a critical, we're almost done with this problem. Can we wait just 1 minute? Okay. All right. So here we've got negative 10, right? So I've got 1P, and I shouldn't have put the equal sign, all right? and I've got a negative 10 is equal to, well, we're going to do the same thing here. I've got 8 over 1, only it's positive this time, times 5 over 4. All right, so you're going to end up with how much? You're going to end up with a positive 10, aren't you? 40 over 4, which is a positive 10. So here I am with a positive 10. All right. Now you just have your two-step equation. Add 10 to both sides. All right. And I get 1p is equal to 20. Okay. All right. So do you see how it's nice to have this to do some work on? All right. Especially, so if you'll work your problems that way. All right. You have p is equal to 20. And so I'm going to give you your homework.